Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today's topic is another one I really wanted to tackle. Too often we hear the phrase, it's all about how you raise them. I can't count how many times, even before I became, awakened to the fact that dogs cause as much damage to the human species as they do. I've always hated pit bulls and these big, nasty, vicious dogs. I was having a conversation with somebody one time, and I basically said, and I was under this delusion. I said, pit bulls aren't vicious by nature, but part of the problem is that the mean and nasty people, that's the kind of dog that they want to have, and that's the reason why a pit bull gets a bad rap, is because the people who want pit bulls are mean and nasty, and they want to use the pit bull's abilities to be vicious. And the words that come out of his mouth, oh, that's exactly right. It's all about how you raise them. You raise them with love, and they'll be your best friend for their whole life. To all the people who think large dog breeds are dangerous, this is my best friend. It's not the dog. It's how you raise them. I just pulled this off of Google. I didn't make this. You got this person with a look of genuine joy on her face, and then you've got this mutt. It's waiting to get some food. Its dark, black, emotionless eyes are completely void of the ability to have any sort of love or human emotion. Now, today, we are going to be criticizing that narrative. We're going to scrutinize the narrative that a dog can somehow become bad or good, depending on how it is raised. So, let's start off, okay? You'll hear many things are referenced when describing how a person or being or creature or whatever came to be where it currently is. But two of the most common ways of describing how these things happen are nature and nurture. The nature versus nurture example is referred to in situations to help determine how someone got to be where they are. Like, for example, there are some, round 2 of a friggin' cold that I thought I was over. For example, there are some people who were raised right. They got all they had every opportunity to succeed, and they had what most people would consider a good upbringing. But for some reason, it was just in their nature to do bad things and go the wrong way. And on the flip side, there are others who were neglected and beaten down and born into an environment that was hostile to personal growth. And somehow, against all odds, their nature was strong enough to overcome their nurture. And they became successful. They overcame the ridiculously negative odds that they were up against. They were stronger, and they overcame those odds. And they were successful. For humans, okay? For people, we like to believe that every person is valuable from the time they're born. Every child is a blank canvas, right? Ready to be shaped like clay to be shaped by the potter. An unrefined bundle of joy that, through proper nurturing, has the best chance of becoming a peaceful, productive, successful member of society. And most often, with good nature and nurture, people turn out all right. They don't turn out to be criminals. They don't usually turn out to be alcoholics or drug addicts. The odds are at least in your favor if you have a household that is financially stable, both parents are in a healthy, stable relationship, you live in a safe neighborhood, etc., etc. Your odds of going down a safe and productive path are statistically higher than someone who didn't get the same love and support and nurturing than someone who didn't, or than someone who did. Again, that's not to say that there are no bad people from loving families, or to say that there are no good people who had bad upbringings. My own upbringing really wasn't that good. I got my butt kicked by my frickin' evil stepmom, and my mom left my dad when I was 8. She decided to go run off and find somebody else. We had to live in the women's homeless shelter, my sister and I, and I can remember being in that shelter when I was like 9 years old and laying in a bed while my mom was outside smoking and just crying and crying and crying and wishing I could just push a reset button and disappear or become someone else. I didn't have that great of an upbringing. Against those odds, though, I turned out to be intelligent and strong. I used the negative circumstances that I went through and my resolve to not repeat this cycle of poverty and abuse with my own children. That resolve was strengthened and tempered like steel. My goal in this life is to be a hard worker and be a husband who can love and protect like none other. And eventually, Lord willing, when the time comes, to raise children that are going to be good people and productive members of society. Children can be nurtured. For humans, okay? Because a child can be nurtured and take things from their environment, a child can more or less be thought of as a blank canvas. The child can learn to speak any language. It can be taught how to write that language. Kids in homes with multiple languages can learn to do both. A child's personality will be influenced either for the good or bad by their parents or guardians, their siblings, their grandparents if they're involved, friends and family. There really isn't a limit or a specific set of people that they can or can't learn from and apply those aspects to themselves. But those are just some of the most common examples. And raising children, okay, we focus so much on raising and nurturing the intellect of children that for the first 18 years of their life, they are put into institutional learning for 7 hours a day to interact with other humans of their age and learn all sorts of different skills and subjects and to take in as much as they possibly can, right? School doesn't necessarily teach you how to live your life, but it can give you some of the tools and the ability to think, to find that skill, to learn to get what you're good at. Children can learn anything, really. A child can learn a skilled trade, get a college degree, build upon their own character with knowledge that has been acquired by humanity over thousands of years. Right? Thousands of years there has been information passed down by written language. Now you think about that, okay? People from 1,000 years ago, and even further back, wrote things down, passed it on to their children, and now here you are in this day and age. 2021, you can understand how to read and write. You can understand math and science. You can benefit from efforts that humanity as a whole has worked together to achieve. You can raise a child. Children can be raised. For dogs, okay? The nature versus nurture example works for humans because a human child or baby is capable of understanding and learning from the human parents and guardians that take care of it. It is capable of learning and understanding language. A child can be nurtured and take things from the environment around it. However, a dog cannot understand human language. A dog doesn't understand human words. So most often, the use of food is the way to manipulate and condition a dog into behaving in the way that the dog owners want it to behave. A dog cannot be nurtured the way that a human can. Because a dog cannot understand human language, like you can't say to a dog, okay, what's 10 times 10? And the dog can turn around, and even though he can't speak, he can use his paw to draw 100. 10 times 10 is 100. Hopefully that's right. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and my brain is fried, so if I get some math wrong, don't judge. Because a dog cannot understand human language, it cannot be nurtured in the way that a child can. The nature versus nurture argument doesn't apply to dogs. The nature of a dog is all that you're left with. The inability to nurture a dog, all you have left is the dog's nature. Now, through hundreds of years of mutating and selective breeding and conditioning using food as the reward system, humans have created many different breeds of dogs. In the United States alone, the American Kennel Club's dog breed list includes 190 dog breeds. Worldwide, the FCI lists 360 officially recognized breeds. So sources differ a little bit, but either way, there's hundreds of officially recognized dog breeds. Some dogs were bred to do specific jobs. Some dogs were made to be herders. Some were made for guarding. Some were made for bull baiting and attacking. Now you'll notice I've said repeatedly, okay, certain dogs were made for certain purposes. The breeding and selective mutations that have been made to form in dogs is different than any other animal who in the wild would have to fight to pass its genes on. Like the survival of the fittest, the strongest animals get to pass on their genes. The smartest animals, the luckiest animals, they get to pass on their genes. But humans have made these mutations occur. So this has led to higher concentrations of these certain genes in certain dogs. For example, the pit bull was selectively bred to attack and fight large animals. It's literally an animal that was made. Humans made dogs. And they made pit bulls. They made them to do one thing, and that is to attack and to bite and to not let go. The bite strength of a pit bull is higher than that of most dogs. They don't let go even when they are getting beaten and being forced to endure severe pain. Like pit bulls have one of the highest pain tolerances of any dog. A dog's instincts can be conditioned. Even though you can't nurture and raise a dog, you can condition the dog against or to its instincts. Now, to raise a child, you can use language, you can use writing, you can use promise of delayed gratification and future reward. A child doesn't need to be immediately rewarded with money or food in order to be convinced of something or to understand what they have done is good or bad. A dog, however, has no need for delayed gratification and promise of future fortune and glory. It cannot possibly understand money or future gratification, delayed gratification. A dog cannot benefit from math or science or reading or computer programming, things that children can be raised and trained to do using simple languages. It has no use for these things. The most effective way to get a dog to do something from the time it's a puppy is to reward it for desirable behaviors with food. The dog understands food. If I do this, I just did that and I got food. Oh, I did it again and I got food. Well, let's see if I do it again and I get food again. Hey, what do you know? I did. The dog understands food. There's no training institution for dogs that has ever existed that didn't use food as the main source of motivation. Now, I'm just about done here. 1 o'clock in the morning is too late for this. Let's get this done. In order to condition a dog's instincts, okay? A dog's instincts to protect its food, protect and attack other creatures and humans that it deems a threat, has been very effectively exploited by humans for a very long time. Like we humans are the masters of exploiting animals. Our intelligence puts us above any animal. Dogs have been exploited for a very long time. Dogs were left in junkyards to prevent thieves from stealing parts. You know, you hear junkyard dog. Well, that's not just a term. Like there really were. You know, they really were. There were, and still are. I want to say, dogs are trained to attack people by the police. Now, dogs can be trained to attack wild animals that try to attack the herd. Dogs can also be trained to sniff for drugs and explosives, again, in exchange for food and reward. But over the hundreds of years, and long before there were drugs and guns to be sniffed out, dogs were doing what they do best. They were most commonly exploited for the ability to be vicious with other people and animals. Dogs all have the instinct to be vicious. And that's why you hear the dog experts say stuff, never leave children alone with dogs. Okay, so back to the point, okay? So to back up, the biggest hitting point of this video is to obliterate this narrative that a dog is a blank canvas and that it's about how you raise them. It is not about how you raise them. A dog's instincts can be manipulated through food rewards and training involving food and psychological domination. Again, but all you've really done when you've trained a dog is conditioned it against those instincts to attack. You have forced the dog to repeat a certain behavior over and over again until it learns that it gets food when it does that behavior. It won't stray outside of that behavior because it might not get food most of the time. Dogs have been successfully manipulated to act a certain way or do a certain thing. They were bred together to bring desirable genes and traits out, to bring those traits out in their offspring. Like, for example, pugs were bred to have pushed-in faces. Bloodhounds were bred to have droopy ears. Chihuahuas were bred to be, pocket dogs. Even though a Chihuahua cannot physically mate with a pit bull or a large dog, their DNA is compatible with one another. They can mix it together in a test tube, and they can make it work. Like a French bulldog, that's a dog that those dogs can't mate or have puppies without human intervention. Even though that's a mutation. If we stopped breeding French bulldogs, they would all die and there wouldn't be French bulldogs anymore. Even though the mutations that have taken place are so drastic that one dog is literally the size of an overgrown squirrel, like 2 to 6 pounds, where a Mastiff can be grown to weigh over 200 pounds. Selective breeding has an enormous effect on what a dog will mature into when it gets done growing. But no matter what you do, you won't be able to breed a child to grow up somewhere in between 6 to 220 pounds. You can do this with dogs, not with humans. And when I say somewhere in between 6 to 220 pounds, I mean somewhere in between there. Like you can't breed a child to be 6 pounds, to be done growing as an adult at 6 pounds, the way you can with our four-legged plague. To the point further, okay? The number one thing you're going to hear, especially from the frickin' pit bull nutters, is it's about how you raise them, blah, blah, blah. They don't like the fact that people hate pit bulls because they're vicious by nature. So they try to make excuses and say things like that to justify their pit bull. My pit bull, never bit anybody, blah, blah, blah. And here's a picture of my dog. Does it look vicious to you? You'll hear all of that. And how other pit bull owners, they're just the bad owners. That's what causes bad dogs. Well, okay, if that were true, then we wouldn't have stats like pit bulls are 2.5 more times likely to bite in multiple anatomical locations than any other breed. Pit bulls are responsible for 60% of all injuries, 63% of ocular injuries, which ocular is eye region. Pit bulls attacks have higher morbidity rates, higher hospital charges, and a higher risk of death than any other breeds. Okay, you cannot deny the fact that a pit bull has what it needs to do damage, and that through hundreds of years, pit bulls have been genetically mutated, refined, and conditioned to be more vicious than any other dog. A pit bull cannot learn and be nurtured any more than any other dog. But the fact is that their nature is to be vicious. Because of this, owning a bully breed, especially if you have children in your home, is 100% child endangerment. It would be safer for me to pick up a gun, put a bullet in the barrel, and take the safety off and set it on the counter. The gun cannot go off on its own. If you never touched it in 100 years, the gun would rust away and it would never ever go off. It is safer to have a loaded gun on the table with your children than it is to have a pit bull in your home. And I'm really not exaggerating, because a gun can't shoot itself. It doesn't have a mind of its own, where this dog can do anything it wants and you can't stop it. The bottom line, okay, it doesn't matter how much human behavior of love and affection you give to a dog, especially a bully breed or any dog that was bred to be vicious, because it's not receptive to your affection or your use of language. If you haven't been attacked by your pit bull or Rottweiler yet, you've gotten lucky. And you've been putting your life in harm's way every waking moment you have spent in the dog's presence. No matter how much you condition a dog against its instincts to attack and be vicious, their instincts can resurface at any time, and when they do, you will not be able to do a dang thing to protect yourself or your family unless you have a loaded, ready-to-go weapon and are able to immediately kill the dog. Kill it. Without injuring yourself or bystanders, which is a guarantee you cannot make. Like we hear all the time that, cop was trying to defend himself against a dog and he ended up shooting a person, Even somebody who is professionally trained to handle weapons and operate in high-stress situations, even they screw up. So what in the world would make you think that you would be able to immediately stop the threat without harming anybody else? Odds are you would not be able to. Even someone like me. Because you cannot raise a dog and communicate with it in any detailed way, it is absolute, indisputable proof that this creature has no place in your home or any modern household. You cannot raise a dog. You can only temporarily condition it against its instincts with food. With that being said, get rid of it. If you're a pit bull owner or a dog owner, and maybe your spouse is the dog person in the family, get rid of it. Get rid of it. Don't put up with it. If this has resonated with you at all, if you have any common sense, if you own one of these big vicious dogs, get rid of it. Find a way to get rid of it. Remember, you cannot raise a dog. You can only temporarily condition it against its instincts to attack. And the day may come where it does attack. And it may not be you. It may be your family, your children, or whoever. But if it is you, you will be unmercifully mauled and mutilated, if not killed. You will have your flesh ripped from your bones. The risk is too high, and the reward is non-existent. Get rid of it. You cannot raise a dog. This is Four-Legged Plague. Always remember, love the sinner, hate the worthless dog.